This year, the US celebrates its 250th anniversary of being the most chaotic place on earth. And since we've never been defeated in a war, ever, I thought we'd look at how statistically impossible the independence of the country was back then. So back when the US was just a bunch of colonies, they decided they don't like their king all that much. And Britain was enforcing some taxes, and the colonists basically said,
"Yo, these taxes right here, this is some bullshit."
And that's how the Revolutionary War started. Anyways, Britain had a massive advantage over the colonists, like having a significantly larger economy and having the strongest navy in the world. Alongside their terrifying breath to scare away attackers, Britain's soldiers were way higher quality compared to the colonists. The point is that the Americans' odds were pretty bleak considering Britain was much stronger. It was basically like Coughing Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb on steroids. So this was like a really David and Goliath type of fight happening right here. The colonists' only real advantage was that Britain was 3,000 miles away, which made the logistics garbage. And even considering that the war wasn't that popular in Britain, they still should have easily won this anyways. So how close was America from losing? Well, they didn't have a decent chance at winning in the beginning, given the fact that there wasn't even a colonial army yet. Also keep in mind that independence was still widely unpopular throughout the colonies, as most colonists still considered themselves British and wanted to reconcile with the empire. After the Declaration of Independence, the British sent a force of 32,000 soldiers with 400 ships under William Howe. In the Battle of Long Island, Washington only had 20,000, mostly unexperienced men, which led to Howe outflanking them and defeating them decisively. As a result, the British occupied Long Island and were ready to trap Washington's army. So if Washington gets destroyed here, the revolution is probably over for the colonists. Thomas Paine, the guy who wrote Common Sense, said, "These are times that try men's souls," which is a pretty badass and scary quote at the same time. So Washington's army barely managed to escape across the East River, and amazingly a thick fog covered their retreat. The British allowing Washington to escape across the river is seen as one of the biggest tactical blunders of the war. Honestly, who knows what would have happened if Washington did get captured. The scenario of Britain winning the war is a whole nother topic, but I'd imagine Colgate going out of business and we'd be eating fish and chips all the time. Anyways, Washington was left with only 9,000 battered troops, with the British chasing them. In the Battle of Kips Bay, the colonial militia panicked and ran away, with Washington reportedly becoming so frustrated, he rode along the retreating soldiers, shouting at them and almost being captured because of it. Which, by the way, understandable crash out, because what were they even thinking? And I'd be more annoyed if he did get captured because of it. After that, the British overtook New York City, and another battle was lost in White Plains. So you're probably wondering how the Americans are even still alive up to this point. And that's because Washington was a very capable general, and somehow his armies always escaped without suffering devastating damage. After all these defeats, the Americans were settled up in Fort Washington on the defense. Washington himself wanted to abandon the fort and retreat, but his decision was delayed, which led to a catastrophic defeat. In the following battle, almost 3,000 Americans were captured, one of the largest losses in the entire war. So by late November, New York City was lost, the army had been constantly retreating, and thousands of soldiers had already deserted. Out of the 20,000 men in the summer, Washington was left with 5,000 by December. The British, including William Howe and even King George, were optimistic about the war. They thought it was an easy win from here basically. But Washington had one trick up his sleeve. On Christmas night, he crossed the frozen Delaware River, which is where the famous painting comes from, by the way. He hit a surprise attack on Hessian forces, which were just Germans that the British hired. So for the first time in months, the Americans finally won a decisive battle that captured 900 Hessians. They won this at the perfect time because the army was already falling apart. Just 1 week later, Washington did it again at Princeton. The revolution was on life support for months, and these wins gave it a much needed pull. So how close was America from completely dissolving? Very close. Had Washington gotten captured at any point, which he was very close to being, had he lost any more battles, or had the army just completely collapsed under the pressure, the United States might have never existed. Anyways, Washington gets a 10 out of 10. Okay, bye.